Okay. I'm doing characterization in The Handsomest Drowned Man in the World. There, um, in this short story, there are no named characters. Instead, the characters are divided into three groups. One being the drowned man, who's characterized as a handsome and very strong and very tall. And then there's the women of the group who, in the beginning, they obsess over the drowned man and think of him to be this great, like, guy. And then there's the men who have like the least characterization, but they do play a role towards the end, and sort of do in the beginning. But the story takes place in a very small shoreside village when a man who was thought to be an enemy ship and a whale at first washes up on the shore of the small village, and as the men are carrying him back, they realize that he's more heavy than any drowned man they have ever carried before. And the author describes him as like very, very tall, very muscular, and everything. So a lot taller and muscular than the men in the story. But the women of the story, they obsess over the drowned man and think of him as they think he's the most handsome man they've ever seen. The narrative often tells us that the women of the story are obsessed over the man and think of him to be superior to their men. They think of him as like some mystical or like being, and they call him Esteban. But towards the end of the story, they realize that he's actually just a human and not like a mythical creature of some sort. But they think of him almost as like one of them towards the end, and they bury him and give him a funeral. And yeah, even the men towards the end think that as well. Think of him, they see his greatness and help in the funeral. But at first, the men were a little skeptical when it came to bringing the drowned man into their village. It was probably most likely due to jealousy, since the women all started to think that that their men were not as strong, as handsome as the drowned man. But in the beginning of the story, the men spent most of the story trying to find out who the drowned man was, going to other villages to see if they lost any of their people. They even start to feel mistrust towards their wives, but then they soon realize the greatness of the drowned man, and just like the women, they're affected, and they're forever changed due to the arrival of the drowned man, and everybody thrives. But now the drowned man, he's characterized as strong, big, tall, very handsome. The village people say he would have the widest doors, the strongest floors, and a bed made of midship frame held together by iron bolts. The women also think his wife would have been the happiest woman, which goes to show that they are fascinated by the drowned man, and why the men of the village were so jealous. But then towards the middle of the story, there's a change, and everybody realized that the drowned man must have had a hard time in his previous life, and he was probably very unhappy with his enormous body. So at first he's seen as almost like a mythical creature to the villagers, but then they soon see that he is just a man who is too big for everyday life. The villagers see him as one of them, and they give him a funeral, and he becomes a big part of the village, and he changes the village and the people that live in it forever. The characterization in this story is a little different than most stories, because instead of being characters with names and backgrounds that are created, they're categorized into three groups, and the men, women, and the drowned man. But no one has a name, and nobody really ever acts independently. except for, I guess, the drowned man, but he's dead, and we don't even know who the drowned man was or who he is, but yeah, we learn a lot about him because of the way the two other groups describe him. All the women and men seem to act and think the same towards the drowned man, especially towards the end. But that's what makes the story different from most. The characterization is kind of different. Instead of names, it's divided into groups, and there are no main characters, and that's basically it.